Bookish, a design book club for curious minds.
I don't see anyone else coming in, and I feel like we have a good quorum for the start of this. So welcoming everyone again to another Bookish. I see some familiar faces that have already joined on a couple of other sessions, and happy to have you guys here. As you all should know from how we talk about this is not your average book club. We usually just want to have really nice and relaxed conversations about the books that sometimes some people read fully, others not so much. We've already had Elena say that she's like halfway through this month's book, and it's really good that this month we actually have the author of the book, Mike, with us. So Mike, welcome.
Hello.
I'm just gonna stop sharing the screen because this is what I just do for while we're on hold. And just
that's so much better.
Yeah, everyone can see each other's faces, and it's so much better. Exactly. But yeah, so today we're talking about the book Ruined by Design, which, contrary to Elena, I couldn't find my copy of the book, and I was going crazy looking for it. And then today, one of my designers came and told me, "Oh, I still have your book," and I'm like, "Oh, I borrowed it to you like a year ago," and I was going crazy trying to figure out where I had it stored. But I don't know, Mike, do you want to start by talking a little bit about what led you to write that book specifically?
Sure. I wrote that book. When did I write this book?
2019?
I haven't talked about this book in a while.
19, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wrote this book because I could see that what was that tech and design were headed to a bad place, and I was right.
Yes, you were.
Yeah,
that sums it up pretty well. That's it.
Yeah, it would be really nice if people just said, like, you know what, totally right, you nailed it. So what's funny is my when I submitted this book to my publisher, they were like, "We're not publishing that. It's too dark."
Yeah.
And I said, it's the truth. This is what I see happening in these two intertwined fields.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Well, can you soften it up a bit?" Like, why? It doesn't need to be softened up. And if anything, I glanced. I haven't looked at the book in a while, but I glanced at it before this, and I thought, man, this should have gone a lot harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not see. Tim Cook, Apple CEO, giving awards to fascists.
Yeah.
I failed to see how much we would enjoy licking fascist boots.
Unfortunately, so. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know, like, I know some of us work in tech fields, others not so much. But every time, like, I read your book basically when I was a little bit going into this world of like having to deal with those themes, having to talk with people about that at work, like help them understand that like this is not just someone ranting. It's like if you look around, it's actually the truth. And I find it very interesting because like back then I remember I learned about your book and about you from Twitter. I was very active on design Twitter from like 2016 to 2019, 2020.
Yeah, I remember when that was a kind of a fun place.
Exactly. When people actually had like very interesting conversations and like discussions. And the book, when I read your book title, I was like, yeah, this is how I feel about the industry. So let me see what this guy has to say. And yeah, up until today, I still bring up the book specifically, even like you, the younger designers, junior designers that I work with and everything, because I feel like sometimes it's what you described back then is easily now seen almost as like you foretold what was about to happen. And as you say, you kind of missed the mark on some things, but like the writing on the wall, like the call for action, the call for even the design code of ethics that you raised up, like I feel like that's something that's so necessary in the long term and everything. But
You know,
yeah,
the,
go like
you know, I wrote this at a point where I thought the field was like starting to go into a bad place. And you know, the whole point of the book is like, hey, we still have time. We still have time. Here's the stuff that we need to focus on. Here's the people who are getting hurt by this. And you know, we still have time to change this. We still have time to make like a more inclusive web. We still have the time to like, you know, treat our employees better. We still have time to fix all of this shit. And the reaction from, you know, the tech oligarchs was like, what if we just went harder in the other direction? Because this stuff seems hard, but you know, it turns out being a fascist is easy. So let's do that.
Wow. Big statement, but yes.
It's a true statement.
Yeah, I understand. I think when you said that you kind of predicted some things and others no one could even imagine. And I think this is one of those things, like the world we live in and the news that we have about the rest of the world. It seems that it's coming out of a fictional novel, right? And it's
Yeah,
every week something else. And it's not just design, but the whole thing, the sense of community and the sense of um, I don't know, the everything is kind of shifted in the last 2-3 years. And
yeah.
I'm not saying it's related with someone's presidency, but half of the news kind of are. And
I don't think it's shifted. I think
yeah.
it's accelerated. I
yeah,
know exactly what you
exactly.
mean. But yeah,
Agreed.
I think it was already headed in that direction, and then it just started going full speed.
I had a glimpse of I'm normally a very positive person, and I believe that people have common sense from the start, and then when they prove me wrong, they go and they like go down the ranking. But I choose to believe that people have common sense from the beginning. And in 2025, I had this like light in my head because the European Accessibility Act came out. And I thought this is going to be a great year for accessibility, for UX researchers, for accessibility UX. This is going to actually change the platforms that we have, not just the governmental ones, but the things that we have for educational purpose, what we have for services. This will all have to change. And since it came out, I haven't seen anything change for any European one, like the big companies, like the big five that we all talk about. And it feels like no one cared. And there were a lot of things. It's not just accessibility for someone that is visually impaired, but they had ethical and moral stands on how to build platforms for children, for example, for them not to be addicted, or how old you needed to be on a social media, or how many parameters the social media can actually get and put in a data set base of kids, because there's kids that are 10 on Instagram, and
Yeah.
Instagram literally has their date of birth and their ethnicity, their nationality, who their parents are, preferences, to build ads specifically for them. But and that's one of the things that I think that's still very true that you talked in your book, was that like we're creating a segregation of of people so we can target them better to extract money from them. And how are we still doing this? And I thought that with the European Accessibility Act, they were also going to cover some part of the ethics, and they do. I don't think they are allowed to keep as much data as in America. They do, but I still feel like no one cared that this document came into place.
So there's not a lot of change because of that.
Well,
No,
there's
in Europe,
there's change, but not
I don't
enough.
see it.
So
I
it's
don't
like,
see it.
because it's not exactly a law, and this is the biggest difficulty with like EU and regulations, right? Like, it's a directive that countries need to adapt into laws. Which means that, yes, there's already certain things that are, if you have a business that is across the European Union, you can be evaluated on the fields that you are in more than one country, and therefore you should go through those regulations. But it's not a law, because the European Union can't enforce laws the same way that regional, like, state members can. What happens, for example, is that in Portugal, we have, even before this was done, for public spaces, for example, public companies, public services, they have strict accessibility laws and regulations, for example, but it only applies to public companies. Everything that is a private business doesn't have to offer the same structures. And while the US actually had the Accessibility Act back in 1998, I think, was the year it was launched, for us it was 2025 as a guideline. It's not even an actual rule. And yes, companies that have already been working with the United States were not too much worried. The ones that were working more in the EU space and everything, you would see them talk about it a lot. There was a lot of conversation last year before it came up. It was, I think it's like June last year. So we're not completing a full year on that. And the thing is, like, it created like noise, but no visible change on those spaces and on those things. There's more things coming. Like by June 3rd, we're also going to have, I think it's just June 3rd. Yeah. Europe is now going to do the same thing, but that will be enacted to all state members, which is regulations on any public institutions will have to be storing their data in European Union spaces. So
Okay.
by starting June 3rd, the laws, there's a timeline for that transition. There's a bunch of activations with technologies that are happening in Europe. I know that because my company is also enacting part of that in their business strategies, whatever. And we're going to talk about it. And we have a conference next week when that is announced. But that's it. Like, the moment that they started talking about, like, we need to build this European sovereign cloud and whatnot, it's still about technology dominance and less about security of the individual and things like that. GDPR is probably still the best thing that we have in terms of data. And even that we have currently, most of the European Union is right-wing, and we have a big group of right-wingers moving for some adaptations on digital spaces where GDPR basically would be used as a medium of mass surveillance by specific states and things like that. There's a lot of weird conversations happening. So it's interesting because, like, that whole Accessibility Act that started last year did raise a lot of questions. I saw a lot of companies, even medium and smaller ones in Portugal, be very, like, afraid of, but I felt like it was more used as a consultant selling services to solve that problem to people, instead of actually people talking about how it was something that should be addressed.
That's true.
And how are they auditing these public companies is also, I think in Portugal they were gonna do a concurso, like what's
challenge.
the name?
It's not a challenge. It's a public
Contest.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
For audit companies, and those are private also, so they want to make money. So obviously that the company is going to point out the flaws, but they're going to point out the flaws that they can fix, not the flaws that are institutionalized like for 10 or 20 years.
Right.
And in Portugal, we're not that, like, we have good platforms. For example, even before COVID, our social
Mhm.
security platform works online perfectly, but still people could pay social security through the post office, for example. In Spain, I'm in Barcelona right now. No one can access the social security page online, and they put everything digital after COVID, and they didn't have time to adapt it, and it's not accessible to me, who I'm part of a pretty tech savvy generation,
Yeah.
and it's not accessible for my parents, and it probably won't be accessible for the next generation because they were built very, very poorly. I had
But
to had an accountant to when I was doing freelance gigs in Spain, to handle all of my invoices and how much do I owe, like um, in taxes and everything, because I cannot enter the page. Even that I cannot register.
That's
And it's
crazy.
not just for me, who I was an immigrant, so all of my papers are kind of provisional until I have residency. It's for everyone. All of my friends, no one can do their own taxes by themselves.
in Portugal, the situation is a little bit different in that sense. Yeah, like people have automatically generated tax forms. There's a lot of digital public services that actually are for the consumer, but there's a lot of stuff that is still not there. I keep saying this because we all complain about the stuff that doesn't work here in Portugal, but digital services actually are very well built compared with a lot of other European countries, which is nice.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
older people can still go to the post office
post
and take
office.
care of
Yeah.
everything, which is nice.
Mhm.
It's not something that we lost. Um,
I remember going to the post office with my grandfather so that he could pay his TV tax when I was a kid.
Mhm.
you can
Yeah.
still do that.
That's the type of stuff. Like they're thinking about the world as not just our tech bubble. It's immediately a big thing that sometimes it's like it's not, it shouldn't be, but it feels like a big ask for a lot of these people in a lot of these conversations. And I say this as someone who's basically chronically online and too much tech involved, and like my life has too many monitors, but I've never not stopped to ask those questions when I started working in spaces that would generate that, because of this feeling that I have. There's like, we keep forgetting everyone, we keep not going.
So
Yeah.
so let me ask a question.
Bring it.
What would it take for you to leave?
Leave where?
Leave tech
Yeah.
right now, honestly, not be in debt from my family, because that's part of why I ended up with the job that I have, and it's why I haven't left. Mostly, it doesn't mean that I don't like. There's parts of the technology world that I love, and I'm someone who is again, I have a positive out view of the world, and a view of the world and everything. But honestly, right now I'm stuck on, I owe money to someone and this pays me good money, and I haven't had a chance or found a way on how to get out of this loop.
When you say I owe money to someone, it sounds like
It's to state.
a mafia.
No,
You're in a bit
state.
of a
Like,
trouble.
Okay.
You're in a
no, but it's
pickle.
like, but it's one of those things like,
A gambling problem.
no. I owe taxes. Like I owe money, which is tax related, but it takes a while to actually be able to manage those things, and it's a family issue that I inherited, and I'm slowly solving it by doing
Sure.
this work. And it's like, it's one of those things. But I like working in the tech space in a lot of things, but I do it always with that. I would love to be, I don't know, more critical a little bit of that. But yeah,
Well, I mean, so wait a minute.
go bring.
So if you're staying in the tech industry, and I understand your reasons for staying in the tech industry, and I'm not trying to talk anybody into leaving,
Mhm.
but if you're there, what's your responsibility as a designer while you're there? Because what I'm seeing from a lot of people, especially right now, because everybody's freaked out about getting laid off, is the only way I'm going to have a job in tech is if I agree to do the fascist enabling work.
Mhm.
So it feels like we've totally abdicated our responsibility as designers, if we understood it to begin with. So I mean, that was the main crux of the book is, not we should run away from these people, but we should do our actual jobs while we're here.
Yeah.
Right. So
I'm gonna say this, like I don't have the intention of running away. I've been doing the job to be that person as much as I can.
Sure.
I feel like I'm always put in the position where, because I work in tech, but I work from the brand side. And I have, for example,
what does that mean?
I work inside the brand department, inside the marketing department, which means I, for example, don't touch the product as much. But I do have a lot of concerns that I bring in everything that has to do with my field, plus the product when I'm allowed to go in there. The end of the day, the biggest difficulty that I have is like execution. I do a lot of execution rather than being able to actually chat about and block any decisions that I feel like would be unethical, or which doesn't mean that I think there are as many as I see in other companies. I've been lucky at that, but people listen to me nowadays. Probably in the beginning when I wasn't working, but people listen to me. So I have a voice and I use that voice and I talk about those things and I'm very vocal. So I haven't ran away from any of those issues. I do my best to make sure that that happens.
And you do volunteer work in communities like this that give space for people to talk about things like ethics of design, which I think is really needed to build a community of people and share experience for other people to understand, even younger ones that are leaving university right now who are 2021, to understand that the dream of working for Google or working for Meta comes with some prices. And I don't think people leave university now with the dream to work for Google anymore, but that was something that was happening in my generation. Yeah, but when I left university, I was 21, and I really wanted to work with culture because that's one of the big things that I really enjoy. I enjoy music, I enjoy literature, and I went to work for a design department of Casa da Música, which is the music hall foundation of Porto, and I stayed there for a long time. And after that, I had pleasure to work with fine arts teachers. And when I got into SaaS product, which is something that I really love, I started to understand that sometimes there's where the stakeholders or the CEOs think that they have a bigger voice, and has a small person who is also looks younger than 30, and it's a woman.
And a woman, exactly.
I in a product team where I was the only woman in like 15 people, my first product job, I didn't feel like I had a voice, and like the second one, I felt like I had a voice. I had more women to back me up, and they would call me, "Oh, here comes the accessibility police," and I was like, "It's not the police. It's something that you have to consider." And like, if you want to have your product in America, you need to have a IPA certification. So why not have the rest of the certifications and build things correctly? And I was also laid off from that job
I saw
a few months ago.
Sorry, I love what you said, that you're the like accessibility girl, like it's something feminine, which I find very interesting.
They didn't say girl,
because
if you're
but it's just relegated to like, it's not like important for men, which I think is why it's very important to have like voices in the tech industry, in the tech environment, like Bruno, which is a male that fits in more in the space. And I think it's their responsibility, like in any ethical concern of any type, I think is a person that is not a minority to be able to speak up because they have the voice to do so, right? I've had a few conversations in the last week with different people that come from very different contexts regarding ethic in design and this AI thing, and ethics of how to use it for what purpose and things like that, or with another friend of a friend, which like in this heated discussion it was saying that nothing of the society that we live in is design, it just happens to be the way it is. And these both happen to be privileged white males. So I think it's very important for, especially who is not in the last tracks of the train, to be able to not just speak up, not just like give space to others to speak up, but also do their part of the job because they have a space, right?
This is so strange. I had a conversation about kind of this, and also the segregation that some companies do, which is so weird, and they're starting to do it here in Europe.
I'm
Some of
sorry,
my
I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt. I need a minute. I'll be right back, okay?
All good, Mike.
Okay.
No
I'll be
worries.
right back.
So Meta and has an office here in Barcelona, and I had friends that worked for them. And then they got laid off in the like last 5 years or so. I also have a friend that works for King that makes Candy Crush, and the King has a company. The objective is to get people addicted to playing the games. So it's very, very strange. And then I have and King is not a Spanish company. I think it's a US company. And but I was talking to a friend that applied for a job at Revolut. They also have an office here in Barcelona. And when I applied for Revolut a few years ago, I thought it was very strange that they asked me what was my gender. And my friend said, "Oh, that's for metrics." And last week, my friend told me that right now they ask as optional answers for gender, ethnicity, nationality, if you have some sort of disability, pronouns. And I understand some of this might be to respectfully address you, for example, pronouns, but they also do it for the metrics. And in the US, they do it to fill quotas, my friend told me. So from 3 friends of mine, the one that got an interview was a black man, and the other 2 were white. So they told me, and that's very strange because they have kind of the same qualifications, that they think this is also to fill quotas, which is very, very annoying as well.
Wait, what quotas? What quotas are you talking about?
For Revolut, there are now some questions when you apply for a job that ask you for your gender. I'm not sure about sexual orientation, but ethnicity, nationality, if you have a disability, and also if you're a veteran, which I feel it's a more of a US type of question.
Yep.
But they do it not to build diverse teams, but to fill in quotas.
But I think
And
in a perfect world, we will not need quotas. But considering the state of the
obviously,
world, I'm not
Yeah.
completely against it, because that means that I like not giving a shit about the reasons why. You end up with more different people in the room, that and they might give some different vision on the subject. So like I'm not totally against it, I think. I don't think it's
The biggest, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Julia.
no, all good, please.
The biggest and older quota system in the world is that all jobs belong to white men. It's been that way, and that's the thing that for a little while we were trying to rectify. We were trying to fix. We were making sure that we were or at least trying to build more diverse teams. And let me tell you a story. I found this out after writing the book, but and I found this out from a friend of mine who was the subject of the story. But a couple of months after Twitter started, a friend of mine who I didn't know at the time, but I've gotten to know since. She was also friends with the guys who founded Twitter, who were 4 white dudes. And she went to them and said, "Hey, I've got a real life stalker who's followed me onto Twitter. And this is somebody who I've had to put out a restraining order on. This dude is dangerous. And now he just discovered that I'm on Twitter and he's stalking me on Twitter. And what can we do anything about this?" And this was before they had, this was before you could even block people or mute people or any of that stuff. So they had an opportunity 2 months in to listen to her story and say, "Oh, okay, this is a thing that's only going to get bigger. This and we can fix it right now." And they decided, no, we're not going to do that because everyone has a right to say whatever they want online.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is appalling, and also so fucking short-sighted, because 2 months into your product, a product which became big and then became a problem, you have somebody coming into your office and saying, "I just found a massive problem in your product that you have an opportunity to fix right now," not just for product reasons, but for humane reasons and community reasons. And they were like, "Nah, we're not interested in that." And
I
I
had
think,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, you can finish. It's just connected to what I was
No,
saying
no,
before.
no. I would rather hear
No,
what you have to say.
it's just that,
When
that
I
person
talk,
that I
I
mentioned
don't
before.
learn.
Great. The
When you
person that I
talk,
mentioned
I learn.
before, that I've had a conversation, and I actually had this conversation last week when I knew that this book club would happen about Ruin by Design, and I've been rereading the last month. So I had the conversation. I just thought about, I want to share this here because I think it was perfect. So this person that I've met, a friend of a friend, we were at the bar. He came out. This dude works. His job is online poker, so he basically lives on online and in his room. Doesn't have much of a social life. He's a bit of a outcast from this small town society. He came out. I've met him, and he was telling me that he started to play with AI, to play creating apps, and he's starting to learn how to do that. He made super clear that the only reason why he was doing it, he literally said, "I'm trying to find the million dollar idea, so to then sell it." So that he was completely fine with just starting with that. And one of the great ideas that he started to share with us was that us, meaning me and a group of other 5, 6 women, um, he decided to create an app for pregnant women.
Oh, what now?
An app for pregnant women.
He was
And
doing
this was
yeah.
And this was a male, a man.
Yeah. It's a guy. It's a 25-year-old man.
no
That
problem.
do
I
not
see
have
no
kids.
problem coming.
No, yeah. And then proceeded for the next 50 minutes, and I really didn't interrupt him because I really wanted to hear as a social experiment. He proceeded to mansplain for 50 minutes about pregnancy to these women, and not for a
Sure.
second he stopped and asked a question. So yeah, and it was really scary. Because I think I hate to always talk about AI because I feel like we just do that in all situations. I just had lunch with my dad and we were talking about AI, but it's just, I think it's already so damaging and scary when these big companies have all this power. I think then we give power to the people that have really not any regard of ethics or I don't know anything, and they just have the power and they just might get that $1 million idea, then some other white man will buy and then they will actually become millionaire. And it's wow, it's incredible.
That's an incredibly depressing story.
Yeah.
Fortunately,
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you knew a platform called Posts.
from Read CV.
Yeah.
Posts.cv.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Read
Remember?
CV had a very short lifespan. They were probably one
I
of
know.
the more
Very,
interesting design spaces in a while, and then they were purchased by I don't remember who, and they just died.
They kind of killed
Posts
it
was really
It
cool.
was,
because
I think, an AI company of all things. I remember being
Yeah.
super disappointed. Like, what do you mean AI?
but they bought it to kill it. The founders,
Yes.
it was a very complicated
Sorry,
decision,
Elena,
but basically,
what was the concept of the thing that you mentioned?
okay, it was a Twitter, but not run by illicit
Okay.
bricks who are also fascists, kind of like Twitter, but better than Blue Sky. And it was designed by designers and for designers. So Posts was a social media kind of platform that was based of another project that they did called CV, where you could have for free a
Read.cv,
profile.
I think that's the name.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That you could have an online portfolio and online CV for free, and you would have like this platform to do it. Okay, it had some constraints. You could not upload like a bunch of videos of your work because also you don't have a lot of space. But for people that did not have actually a website or could not create a website, this could be like a digital depository of your stuff, like some people do it with Notion, for example. But this one would allow you to interagir, interact with other people. And then they saw that a lot of people would leave in comments on other people's posts on their portfolio. So they developed a social kind of a social media app for created for designers. And I was there, and I still have monthly chats with friends that are in New York, California, and other places. And when Post was going to die, we're all very, very sad because we didn't want to go back to Twitter for nothing. And we switched to Blue Sky, and we have the Posts CV alumni community there, and we still talk to each other. But yeah, my point, I have a friend, and he used to work in like a big tech company, and he was not happy. And it's not like happy with his work or happy in life. It's like he was not fulfilling what he thought he needed. And he has Crohn's disease, and he and another friend, and also kind of a work relationship because they both worked in tech. He was a designer, the other one was a developer. He also had a condition that was related to IBS or something, and they decided to quit their jobs and create an app to help people that have these sort of problems. It would work kind of like the apps that now we have for diabetics that allow you to have like a diet logged in, and what's your sugar intake, and when did you take insulin, if you have any like up and downs the last few months. But this one was to control this sort of specific disease, and they're still trying to find funding for the second part of the app, and the app is already kind of done. They just actually need funding to launch it because they cannot fund it themselves. And he's working in a passion project that relates to him and to another founder. He has some other people who are working. They put their own money and the first round of funding into creating this, and now they want to launch it, and they still can't. And I know it's frustrating for him because he also has a family. He bought a house like 3 years ago, and it's very difficult for people who want to do something better. And I see friends who want to make projects that make people's lives better, and it's very difficult to get funding, or it's very difficult to get people interested if it's not going to get money back, like what the stakeholders say, right? Like the company, if I'm investing, I need to understand that I'm going to get my money back in some way. How?
So where's funding coming from these days?
For them, Like
anyone.
the first
For anyone.
first round of funding that they had was actually they applied for something that was like medical research or something like that, and they got an actual researcher who is a doctor and doctors in the team for them to build everything. Yeah.
Okay. And then what? Where does round one come from?
Round one. This was
Or
round
two?
one.
Round two.
I haven't talked to George in a little while, but I don't know. I think they needed bigger investments, and I'm not sure where that they can get that.
Yeah.
They're also US based, so I'm not sure how that works.
Oh, I can answer this question then. So then round two of their funding will probably have to come from a company in Silicon Valley on Sand Hill Road. And all of those companies right now are run by white supremacists, fascists, big on eugenics, real pieces of shit, like the Mark Andreessens of the world.
I love that we're recording this session to put on YouTube, and we're just ranting away.
But that's the best option.
You gotta tell the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not making this shit up. All of this is based on shit that comes out of these idiots' mouths. And I think when somebody says something and when somebody tells you who they are, it's fair to call them that. So for example, this morning the New York Times posted a story about how the Justice Department here was opening up a case against E. Jean Carroll, who had accused Donald Trump of rape. That was the headline.
I'm sorry. They are building a case against the person they accused.
Yes. Here's the actual truth. There was a civil trial where he was found guilty of raping her.
I remember.
Yep.
Right? You don't, so at that point, you don't have to use the word alleged anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's proven. Yeah.
So that the proper headline is Justice Department opens up a case against E. Jean Carroll, who was raped by Donald Trump. That's the truth. I think, the media not for some reason, because, they're all driven by profits, and goddamn Trump makes so much money for these fuckers. But they will mollycoddle these headlines, and they will soft pedal the headlines, and they will just tell outright lies. So we have to tell the truth about what's happening here. The United States is now a white supremacist nation run by fascists. I'm not exaggerating. I'm making cases there based on their recent actions.
Yep. And I had this conversation with my dad like a few months ago. It's Trump almost seems now more like a puppet, and if something happens to him, JD Vance is going to be the scary dude for me.
They're all scary. They're all scary. Just because there's a second fascist doesn't mean that you don't string up the first fascist.
Yeah. Like Italy kind of hang up the fascist by the foot, right?
I love that photo. I have
upside down
in the plaza. I don't remember the plaza, but
God, yeah.
But they did it.
They're not so scary when they're hanging up by their ankles.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like
pacifists in Portugal.
Yeah, here's the thing. Yeah, when we Europe usually, for example, if you want to have those conversations with someone based on the US, I've had more difficult time getting proper answers, like the stuff that you're talking here, But like if you talk with Europeans, we've seen the US fall into fascism live on TV, and we've seen it for what it is, and we've been screaming at the top of our lungs on almost every channel. The problem is that we're also suffering from that here, right? Yeah. In smaller doses or dumber stuff, but unfortunately, yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna do one thing.
Netherlands had a Green Party in 2016, and right now they have a right-wing party. They went from a Green Party that was like left to an actually alt-right party.
I see Salome with her hand up. I want to give her a chance.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking, Mike, when you wrote the book, the AI wave was not this big, massive like nowadays.
I apologize. The what wave?
The AI.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
Everything right now, and I believe I know your point of view about this. The designers using AI to work, especially on the tech companies and everything, because this is a discussion I have with Bruno a lot. And even I think 2 days ago, I was calling him a hypocrite because he was saying, oh, I don't use AI that much.
Use AI.
But
I know that I use AI.
I use AI too. Everyone nowadays, we almost cannot escape, even in the small things that we don't know. But I know he tries to use them in a good way, not that much, but in his work especially, he uses to optimize his work and his time.
I love how you're ratting out Bruno here. It's like
It's fine, and I'm okay with it. Like, I have no issues with this. Like,
a friend of mine told me the other day that the Pope, his first published thing was against AI. Like the Pope did an article about we need to demolish AI, and AI cannot be used for education. AI should not be used for this and that. And do you know how people objectors of conscience against something? We can, we can also now say that we are conscientious objectors against AI because we are Christians. I'm not sure if it's best, but because we can cite the Pope actually and say, I don't want to use AI.
I would. I mean, I would.
Yeah, I would be. I don't know my position about that because the several times I go against the
church.
The church. I would not be in the right.
It's a means to an end.
Yeah. It takes. Do you know how hard it is to get me to agree with a Pope?
Yeah, I believe so.
Then again, I'd rather have a priest beside me than behind me.
Yeah, sure.
Same. True.
That one is 100% true. But I don't know. I feel like.
Hold on.
Hey,
Salome,
can we have the answer?
Were you getting to a question? I want to make sure that we didn't all interrupt you.
No, I was saying, yeah, you didn't. When you wrote the book, you were imagining the worst in the world, and the world went way crazier. And nowadays, even the designers are using the AI for everything, but at the same time, they are afraid that the AI is going to get their jobs, and it's a bit. But I don't know if you have what's your point of view and your opinion about that and the use of AI for.
Boy, do I have a point of view. Yes, I have a point of view. Okay, first off, let's do a little game here. I want you to close your eyes, all of you, and picture all of the tech lords who have been visiting the White House and turning to fascism and enabling Trump. All right, you're probably seeing Andreessen and Zuckerberg and Tim Cook and the Google dude and the Microsoft, okay, all right, you got that picture? Okay, now I want you to picture all of the tech lords who are shoving AI down everybody's throats. You got it?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Now you open your eyes and tell me what the differences were in the pictures.
None.
None.
Yeah, none. It's the same. It's the same people, and it's not the same people. It's the same white dudes for the most part. And I mean, for me, when the game is over when something is a fascist tool. Like, this is the tool of fascism. That means I do not touch the tools of fascism. Helena, if you are going to bring up V2 rockets,
I had an experiment when Grok came out with my friends. We asked ChatGPT and Grok the same questions, and it was like, how would you describe the perfect man? And they would give us an answer, and then they say from people.
it was in a casket.
And they would give us answers like, a perfect man would be a gentleman. Perfect man would be like be able to provide for his family. La 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 la. And then the perfect man would be handsome to standard normal standards of beauty. A perfect man would be X, Y, and Z. And then we asked, who do you think in the world could represent the perfect man? And then Grok said, Elon Musk.
Nailed it.
I don't remember
Yeah.
ChatGPT said. ChatGPT to put Elon Musk, and like it was a list of like 5 people. I think Elon Musk was the 5th on ChatGPT, and before that they had like the dude that plays Captain America and some other people. Salome is agreeing that he might be perfect.
No, not perfect, but at least better than Elon Musk.
Yeah, better to look at, I think. But he did marry someone who's 20 years younger than him, and clearly is a power dynamic. It's very weird. But yeah, Grok only told me one name, and that was Elon Musk. And then he cited all of the characteristics why Elon Musk was the perfect man in 2024. And I was, this could not be happening. Like, what?
Okay.
Is AI, we say AI hallucinates, yes, but also AI is being built by these people who obviously want the world being fed with their own truths. And obviously there can be two truths, and not everything needs to be an universal truth, but the AIs are being built to kind of tell us what these white men in Silicon Valley want us to know. Obviously.
Okay, I want to answer the question. That Salome asked about AI. I do not use it. I do not care for it. I do not need it. It is boring as fuck. To me, I'm a writer. I like to write. I enjoy writing. Writing to me is like wrestling. Like, I try to get words on a page. Those words don't want to be there. I have to like wrestle them to the ground and figure out how they work. And at the end of the day, if I'm lucky, I have written something that will resonate with someone. And to me, it's not just about having the thing at the end. It's having gone through the work where I actually learned how all of those things fit together. I think that makes me grow as a human being, having done that work. I am also, when I'm not doing this work, I'm also a painter, right? So I go into my art studio and I paint. And it's not about having the finished painting at the end, although I love having the finished painting at the end. It's the joy that I get out of making that painting and making mistakes while I'm doing that painting and fixing those mistakes, recognizing when I've made a mistake, and also recognizing when a mistake was better than the thing I originally intended. That's the story of humanity, is doing that shit. And for me, like, when I hear people talk about AI, all I hear them talk about is that end thing. And I get a thing, and I have a thing. But you haven't really gone through the process. And that the process is where the growth comes from. And as a human being, my goal is to go to bed every night smarter than I woke up, which means I got to learn something that day. And having ChatGPT like fire off a couple of pages of writing does not make me smarter. It does not help me grow as a human being. So for those reasons, it is incredibly boring and stupid to me. It's not helping me grow as a person.
I think
if you feel like this is helping you grow as a person, if this is helping you do your thing, great, use it. But with anything we use, we should be aware of the costs, which is why I put a book suggestion in the chat. Empire of AI by Karen Howe. It is a
already heard of it.
Fantastic.
It's on my reading list, and I was going to suggest it for one of the sessions here, actually.
Move it to the very top. Move it to the very top of your reading list. It's the best book that I've read in years. It fully explains, like, you know, you type in a prompt, you get an answer. Like, there's so much shit that happens behind the scenes to make that happen. And this book goes into that. From the people in, you know, in the global south who are like cleaning up all of that data, to all the land that's being stolen to build those data centers, to all of the water that's being used, and all that, like, all of the world's chips are now going. The only company making money off AI right now is NVIDIA, because they're selling the chips that power all of this shit. Good for them. But nobody else is making any money. And all it's being used as a cover, at least here, it's being used as a cover for people to lay off, you know, thousands and thousands of people.
Even the CEO of NVIDIA said that this week.
And I think if there's a couple of things that have been said this week, like the Uber CEO, and again, Uber is not a good company. Uber like makes their money exploiting people. So the CEO of their company said, you know what, the math isn't adding up for us. We've spent X amount of money on this shit and it's not working. It's not giving us what it said it was going to give us. So we don't know how much longer we're going to put up with this. For somebody at a company that size with that high a profile to like pull the curtain back, it's kind of the beginning of something, I think. Because we've got two things going on here. We've got AI, the technology, which is really like 47 different technologies that somebody has bound up into a box and said, okay, this is all one thing now. Stuff that we have been using for decades is now called AI. Because we needed to build a big enough bauble that the market would react to and invest in. And what's shameful there is that I think there are some good uses for this stuff. Like, we've all heard the stories about how, you know, it helps to find things in like medical tests and stuff like that. And so there are some very good uses there. All of those uses require human supervision, by the way. But all of that being tied up into one big bauble, like when that thing explodes, you're not going to be able to pick the good things back out of it. It just explodes. So the investor class and the oligarch class, which is hoping to make a ton of money on this before it blows up, they're the ones who put all of that shit together. If I was doing actual interesting work in AI that helped people, those would be the people I would be mad at. Was that the oligarchs that turned AI into a marketing event? Not people like me who were like, no, this shit isn't working for me. Because they're the ones that are going to ruin your good uses for it. So, also, look, man, if AI helps you code something, then, fucking use it. But ask yourself, what am I going to do with that time that I just saved? Like if you just cleared 5 hours off your calendar by having Claude code something for you, what are you going to do with those 5 hours?
Volunteer at Friends of Figma.
Sure. Go do something for your community. Go play with your kids. Go make a movie. Go paint.
But I think we
plant a
live in
garden.
a context. I think we live in a context where if you work for a company, especially those 5 hours that are cleared, it's going to be filled with more tasks. So we're going to all, we as a general, we just do work more and work for 5 people instead of one. And because then you have no choice, right? You just need to be more productive.
If this shit is so great, how come none of us have more free time?
Yep.
How come none of us are
because they keep enslaving the people who are workers.
Portuguese people don't get to use that word.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
I would love to have AI vacuum my house and wash my dishes and clean my toilet. But instead, we're making it write poetry and paint and write. That's the shit I love to do.
I think we already have automized home robots for that. We just don't call them AI.
They're called immigrants.
They're not. No, if you want to buy a washing machine, that's a automated product that can help you save time. You just need to prepare the clothes and push a button and then take them out and dry. Or you can even have a washer and dryer that dries the clothes as well. Sure, and you would save time. A lot of people.
But does my washing machine need to be sending my data back to the mothership to tell them what kind of dirt is on my clothes?
It should not.
Because that's what's.
But we also have robot vacuums that vacuum the house. So we built some products that would help us get more free time that we wouldn't have in a household, especially for women, because a lot of times it was the woman in the family that would come from work and clean the house, or wouldn't work and would be caring for the house and the kids. So we have a lot of machines that were also invented by women, like the one to clean the dishes, the dishwasher, that was solving a problem, and that was actually like the UX. It was like, this is solving an actual problem for a lot of people, and it's right now it's still used. But for example, in the 1940s, we built the first machine that could play chess. And we didn't call it AI, and it was a learning model. He would learn all of the chess moves and would adapt his plays to it, and would recognize new plays and have a perception of what he should do. And we didn't call it AI. The word for artificial intelligence, these words, is just like in vogue, I guess, right now. And we call everything AI, but
it's marketing.
We're not going back and calling the chess computer AI chess. Yeah. He already has a name. I think he has a name. They actually named it, but I'm not sure what. Someone noticed said Roomba, the vacuum robot, might be a bit closer. Some of them need an app to use, and it tracks your whole house. Yes. And the area of your house and the perimeter of all the walls, everything. Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry.
The app flow for like inputting
Elena, let me just say a thing about the vacuum robots. The ones where we don't think about the vacuum robots that much. We just connect them, they map our house, and they clean our house. Cool. We don't think about that, but they need a camera to map our house, And a few years ago, photos of a woman sitting on a toilet were leaked because when her robot was cleaning, because he was mapping and he was cleaning and it's taking photos, and those photos are going to the cloud, and the cloud is supervised by human beings, and human beings are shitty, and oh my god, it leaked the photo. So people don't think, and people are minding their own businesses and their houses, naked, whatever, and your robot is there and you don't even think, it's just there cleaning. But oh well, things
It's so strange that we
happen.
need to have these concerns.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, Beatriz wants to talk, so I'm just gonna.
Beatriz, can you give me 1 minute? Can you give me
Yes.
1 minute? I'll be right back.
Meanwhile, while Mike is out, I'll also try and see that we're almost getting on work. Well, we should be on our time almost, but we also have 2 questions from Gabriel that I would love to have recorded since he had to leave early. So let's wait for him to come back and try to bring those up.
By now, the empire of AI.
I was gonna say,
Right.
on the whole topic of cameras.
I don't know if the empire of AI can be the next month, because I don't know if I can read it until the end of next month.
Same.
Because
Yeah, it's just
How
like
many
when you're at
pages
the
does it
beach.
have?
I didn't
I feel like
finish
it's-
this one yet.
I love the type of writing. It's so raw, and Mike writes like it's really funny for me, and it's like sem papas na língua. I don't know how to say that in English,
There is
but
no translation for that in English.
but it's like someone who's I'm talking about you. I like your style of writing because most people would narrate or talk to the person who's reading in a very polite way, and you do not do that. You're very true to your truth, and you write how annoyed you are about the subject, and it's very entertaining to read the book as well, because I feel like we're having a debate, a conversation, like face to face with a coffee, and no one is listening, and we can talk shit about everything. I like it.
You know, thank you for that. I appreciate it. The when somebody tells me that I write like I talk, that to me is the biggest compliment. It's like I figured out how to get my words to come out like we're just having a conversation.
Beatriz?
Oh, yes, thank you. You're talking about like kitchen robots, and that reminded me of something that I've been thinking for a while, and I don't have an answer for yet. That is, why are we insisting on creating AI and robotics after humans? Why do they need to look like humans? Why do they need to think like us? We have 8 billion people. Why do computers need to think exactly and mimic all aspects of humanity? Why can't they, fill in the gaps, help us in what it is like our biological limitations? Like we can't count forever. That's why we created computers. So now why are we going backwards and making computers think exactly like us, like even trying to replicate like our artistic capabilities, even our biology? I can't find the reason why this insistence.
Because that's a great question. Great question. I saw somebody say this online, and I apologize. I do not remember the person's name. But maybe we shouldn't have let the people who were so bad at making friends, maybe we shouldn't have put them in charge of making everybody's computer friends.
Yes.
If you take take a look at the people who are building this stuff. They are not good at talking to other people. They're not good at seeing themselves as part of a community. They're not the kind of people who would walk over to their neighbor's house and say hello, or, you know, they wouldn't help somebody cross the street. We put the worst people in charge of, you know, building society as a whole. And this is what they've come up with. What if every app in the world behaved like our mother and took care of all our needs and cooked my food and then delivered it to my house? And then I could just throw my laundry down the steps and somebody would bring it back folded. Like we've got the world's saddest man babies spending billions of dollars, half the world's water and a quarter of the world's land, because they miss their mom, and having their mom take care of all their needs, and having their mom tell them how awesome they were. Because that's somehow easier than going to therapy.
I also,
or like, you know, honestly, get a dog. Get a dog. Because, you know, what's amazing
No,
about
I don't
dogs?
think they even can take care of a dog, because that means they need to be human, and I don't think they
Right.
can be human. Elon Musk has 100 children, and the thing,
And they all hate him.
100.
exactly, they all hate him, and he doesn't accept his transgender child because
He's a piece of shit man is what he is.
exactly, but he is doing all those sex redefinition surgeries too, because he looked like a rat and now he doesn't look like not
The
like a
gender
rat.
affirming care.
Gender affirming care, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Nobody does more gender affirming care than fascists.
exactly.
Yeah.
And he
Especially
looks like a rat and now
karma makes them bald, and then they go and get new hair. It's not fair.
Turkey get a lot of money out of all of those fascists.
I'm all for people having gender affirming care. I have a friend who's going bald and he had implants made and he's happy now. But like karma made Silicon Valley fascist bald for a reason. It was a punishment. And then they get new hair. It's not fair.
So Elena thinks that being bald is a punishment.
Kinda.
Okay. So punishment from who?
exactly.
I don't know. The
Mother
goddess
Nature.
herself. Yeah. No, I'm kind of kidding with the baldness, and I have a take on Beatrice's question as well. I think, and this is like from our brain subconscious completely, but we perceive, it's not perceived, but we have more sympathy and empathy for what is most like us. So like other animals as well, is a survival instinct, especially for animals who live in communities or packs, right? They will try to protect the animal that's just like them. And because we have a conscience that works faster, and we build other like connections with it, we try to mimic human behaviors on robots, so we can, or the companies that want to sell them, make us believe that they're safe. Do that make sense?
I mean, yes, but I also think of the uncanny valley, and who wants to have in their kitchen a robot that is human shaped? It's going to be uncomfortable.
The same person that goes to Asia to get a sex robot. Weirdos from Silicon Valley.
Because you also have things that don't look human, like pets, but we still empathize with them. It doesn't need to look human for us to care for something.
Yeah, especially because
Yeah.
lately there's not so much empathy for other human beings, seems like, right? So
No.
it
No, and
doesn't
then
really
the
close the thing.
similarity goes like if the person is the same race, we would have more empathy or something like it. And then you think about it, and right now there's a group of people that feel like a whole country is expendable.
I think it's about control. I think it's about what I needing to feel like I can control something. And when the people and when people don't feel like they can control the other people around them, which is it's a sociopathic view of the world, wanting to control other people. But when that turns out to be hard, like when my employees start unionizing, when my employees start asking me lots of questions I don't want to answer, when they become trouble, then it's easier for me to create something that looks and feels like an employee, but behaves the way I wish actual employees would behave like. Then that's what they're doing. They're creating a world that bends to their will, which is why I would implore you not to. Like the best thing that we can do in the face of all this is to be our just most chaotic human selves. Like go to work, start chaos, cause trouble, ask lots of questions. I mean, this is something I can't remember if I wrote it in that book or a previous book, but every day you go to work, you should be willing to get fired. Because if you're not willing to get fired, you're not doing your job.
The thing is, we built a system that does not allow the little guy to even have the privilege to think, I don't care if I get fired. Like, because most of the people don't have that kind of privilege. I've worked in Portugal and I've worked in Spain. I'm going back to Portugal next month. And
Elena, with all due respect, both of the countries that you just listed have universal health care.
yes, they do. But
We do
still,
not.
yeah. But
And I would say the same
I
thing.
don't know. I don't know how the reality is in the US. Obviously, I'm not talking about it, but I every time I was laid off or someone told me like we're not renewing your contract, I would have built up anxiety for a long time, even when I was applying, even when I was in interviews. And I'm actually very, very privileged and lucky because I've never been unemployed more than 6 months in my life. And when I get jobs, I can build up my savings again. But I don't have enough savings to like get a down payment on a house or something like that. And a lot of people in my generation in Portugal and in Spain, I'm not talking about in other countries because I only lived in these two.
Sure.
We kind of think about not like a far future, but we think about our future, and we cannot be laid off, and we
Sure.
cannot be
I
fired.
think Helena,
Using a job sucks.
I understand your point of view, of course, and it's not easy. I just also am thinking now that these changes, of course, won't happen until someone goes against the grain. I'm not just talking about the like jobs laid off in this area, but in general. But I think changes in societies and the way things work have just been happening when a minority decided that they need to do something. And for most changes that I can think about right now, it's being black trans women. They don't have rights. They don't have an alternative. Never had. They're the last bit of the train. The changes, most of the rights that exist come from there. They didn't have a safety net. They will put their lives on the line, and we now have many rights on different sets of like healthcare rights, civil rights, and gender rights, and on all of that. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but I think sometimes you need to. I agree with your perspective, but also on Mike's perspective of you should do your job every day, like willing to get fired, because if not, you're gonna fired anyway, right? By a laid off because of AI, so might as well. It's
White
complicated.
people.
I've always been the most like I don't know how to call it, manifestações in English.
Protests.
Protest. I was
Yeah.
a protest teenager. I went to a bunch of protests in Portugal. I was always kind of a socialist leftist. Socialism in Portugal is also very different from other sides of the world. But we went to protest for education, for a bunch of things. And I remember that I was in an art high school, and we wanted to add an addenda, or make them add an addenda to the drug act that they did, like the law that they did in 2004. They discriminalized drugs in Portugal, but then they built a system where actually people that want to get help, is very difficult for them to enter the system. And it's you build the system, but then it's very difficult to actually ask for the help. But everyone's like, well, at least we're not putting them in jail. Yeah, but they're still addicts. And I remember we're going to protest, like we're 17, 18, and we're going to protest for everything. Women's marches as well, everywhere I go. And this is important. And I would miss school. And in some of the greves, like national
National
greves,
strikes.
national strikes, I would be part of it as well. But I would have my heart jump up and down, because I was like, what if like they don't accept this, and they take and they use it against me for firing me, and it's like they can't, because we are protected. But still, I was very anxious. I'm a very anxious person, per se. But
White people like us love going to protests, but we hardly ever start revolutions, because we don't have to start revolutions, because the world is pretty much built
built
for
for
us.
us.
Yeah. And there might be some things that we want a little better. And we might even be like, in our hearts, we might be like, hey, I want other folks to have good things too. But at the end of the day, we don't really want to sacrifice our spot.
Yeah.
So we don't take the hit.
Yep.
Bruno, do I have time for a story?
Yeah, sure. It's just I'm trying to understand, like, also bring the conversation eventually to a close, because we had planned for an hour and we're going to an hour and a half, which is amazing. I love the conversations. It's just trying to keep everyone in time. So go ahead, finish your story.
I'm going to ask folks a question. Let's say, what time is it over there?
Around
9.
8. It's getting to 8 p.m. in Portugal, 9 in Spain.
Okay, so you haven't had dinner yet?
Nope.
No, it's because I know how it works over there. So let's say after this, you decide you want to have dinner. You want to make dinner for your family. So you go out to the market and you're like, fuck, let's have, it's a good night for fish. So you go out to the market, you go to the fish counter, and you go up to your fishmonger and you say, hey, what's good today? And the fishmonger points at at tilapia, and say, hey, the tilapia is good. Get some tilapia. You're like, great. You get like 4 pieces of tilapia. You take it home. You fry it up for your family, and you make some sides, some potatoes, some stuff like that. And everybody has a nice dinner with the nice tilapia that you made, and you're all happy because you fed your family. An hour later, everybody's sick. Stuff's coming out both ends. There aren't enough bathrooms in the house to keep up with it. Everybody's miserable. Everybody's like bent over in pain. Horrible. Sick. It's an evening of distress. Nobody gets any sleep. Next day, you go back to that market. You are pissed. You're like, where's that fucker that sold me the bad fish? And you go back to the fish counter and you're like, hey, wait a minute, let me ask you, who's mad at the fishmonger at this point? Raise your hand.
Kind of am.
Will be.
You're mad at the fishmonger sold you bad fish, right? Got your whole family sick. You have kids. Your kids were sick. They had a miserable night, so you're mad at the fishmonger. That makes sense. That's understandable. Here's the part of the story that you missed. Before you walked into the market, the fishmonger went to the market manager and said, "Hey, boss, this tilapia is about to go bad. I think we should throw it out." And the market manager says, "We paid too much for that and our margins are shit. You push that on the next idiot who walks in through the door." "But I don't want to make people sick." "You push that on the next idiot who walks through the door or you're fired." And the fishmonger's like, "Man, I got kids to feed. I can't get fired from my job. So fuck it." Backs off, goes back to the fish counter, and you're the next idiot who walks in through the door. So when you say, "What's good?" what does the fishmonger say? The tilapia. Not happy about it, but he doesn't want to get fired. Are you still mad at the fishmonger now, Bruno?
I honestly, I stopped, was like, I'm pretty sure I'm not, how can I put this? I probably would be if it happened to me. If you put it in a hypothetical case, I always think about who was their boss. And I don't know if that's because I've read your book, but at least that's my first thought. So probably.
Julia, you still mad at the fishmonger?
I'm angry upwards.
I mean, but you're still, because here's the thing.
I mean, he had an ethical choice to make. He decided not to check it out. But he had his kids, so he got my kids sick to not get his kids hungry.
He picked his kid over your kid.
Yeah. Who wouldn't, right?
I mean, maybe. Because here's the thing. All day, every day, we deal with professionals throughout our lives, whether it's the guy selling you fish, the person driving the bus, your doctor, the person you're trying to pay a bill to on the phone or at the post office. We deal with professionals every day. And there's a certain way that we hope people will behave when they deal with us. We hope they will behave professionally. We hope they will behave ethically. We hope they do the right thing by us. Because when they don't, we get angry. And I know that we get angry because I see everybody online complaining about, the shitty service I got at the airport today, or the shitty person who was driving my cab today. I see how people complain about this. But when it comes to us, when we flip the table and we're the professional, we keep looking for a pass. We keep looking for a reason why it's okay for us not to behave in the way that people need us to behave. Well, I just bought a house, my bills are high. I think designers, and maybe this is true of all professions, we keep looking for a loophole that we would not accept from other people. And that's something to consider.
It's a great talk to be left with. And thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
For the conversation, Mike. And thanks for everyone joining us.
Thank you very much.
If you guys have recommendations for books for next month, we'll just take them all and try to choose. If nothing else works, we already have a great recommendation here from Mike.